Okay. Somebody asked, because I think there's a lot of apprentices all asking questions and stuff, and they were asking like, is it, would you recommend working for yourself or would you work for a company? I mean, to be honest with you, I don't know. I mean, it really is, it's down to you. Unfortunately, there's no handbook on it. There just isn't. I think that, I think it's a beautiful thing. I think, I wouldn't change it. I mean, pisses me off at times, don't get me wrong, it does. It really, it angers me almost at times, certain areas of it and stuff. But there are, I don't know, there's areas of it that I also love. And I think that's the most important thing. If you can find, as long as the positives outweigh the negatives, then I think that, you're onto a winner, But as for, there's no one size fits all for working for yourself. Some people have done it and they've ended up going back into, a full-time job. Others have, like me, they've started it and thought, I quite like this, and they've stuck with it. And there are negatives to the job, There are a lot of negatives, and I think it's just weighing up what you want to do, For me, the biggest thing that I enjoy about it is that it's your time, it's no one else's, and you're not accountable to anyone. There's no fucker in this world you're accountable to. You are your own. I mean, you could argue that you're accountable to a customer because essentially the customer is your boss. But, I mean, as long as you do a good job and the customer's happy, there's no problem, I mean, somebody else asked, do you ever get issues? Do you ever get, like, times where a client hasn't paid or something? I mean, yeah, it does happen. It does. It's rare, admittedly. I mean, the last time I had that was, how long ago was that? More than that. 6 years even, 6 years ago, I'd say, somewhere around there. It was a house rewire. It was a big house. It was like a 7-bedroom house. It was a big place, big old, like, farmhouse. Quoted them to do it from start to finish, and they paid their deposit up front. It wasn't a big deposit, like £1,000 or something. It wasn't anything huge. Anyway, got the deposit, started the job, and it took me about, I think it was just under 2.5, 3 weeks. It was somewhere around there. And every day when I got there, it was just sort of the unwritten thing. It was just like an unwritten rule that every day that I got there was a cup of tea in the hallway waiting for me. That was just what happened. I didn't ask for it. They just did it. There was a cup of tea, and there was always two bourbons, actually. I'll never forget it. They were bourbons they served. 2.5 weeks. Every day, that cup of tea was there without fail with 2 bourbons. And I got to the last day, and they knew it was the last day because we'd spoken about it beforehand. And I got there that morning on the final day. It was just snagging. It was like, putting a saddle on or something. It was just little odds and ends to finish a job. And I got there and I pulled up, and I don't know. You just get this feeling. I just can't describe it. Anyone who's been in that position will know what I mean. You just get a feeling. You haven't even been in the house, and something's not right. It's like a sixth sense. And I walked through the front door, and there was no cup of tea there. There wasn't one. Every day there had been. This day, the last day, there wasn't one. I thought, you just knew something went right. And there was no one around. The husband wasn't in sight. The wife wasn't in sight. They'd opened the door. The door was ajar. And so I had to go hunting around the house for them. I was like, all right. And very cagey, didn't really want to talk to me or anything. And you could just tell something was wrong. I was like, right, whatever. Just put your saddles on, just finish up and do a bit of testing and go, whatever. And I got to the end of the job, and it wouldn't pay me. My final payment. I think it wasn't a huge amount. It was like 600 quid. No, 900. 900 quid. I remember it now. 900 quid, and they wouldn't pay it. Anyway, they just pissed and moaned about it, and it got to the point. This whole thing had only gone on for about sort of 10 minutes. It wasn't a big period of time. And anyway, it got to the point at the end of that job. I was sort of stood there, and he wasn't backing down. I wasn't backing down, and I just said, "Look." In fact, I remember the exact words. I said, "You either pay your bill or your fuse board is coming out." That was what I said, and he sort of shrugged his shoulders like that. And no sooner had I said that, this hand appeared from the kitchen to the husband with a cheque. Literally, I didn't see her face. It just this hand appeared with a cheque, and that was it. I got the cheque for 900 quid and I left. Looking back at it now, I'm glad I didn't take the fuse board out, because that would have been an absolute can of worms to have to deal with afterwards, you know, because that's, I think there are certain legalities and things that say you can't actually do that. I don't know, I mean, I'm sure there probably are, you know. Yeah, that was the only time where I had to really stamp my feet to get what I was rightfully owed. But that's the only time. Yeah, since then I've never had an issue. That was the last time, and that was about 6 years ago. So, but yeah, there you go. But yeah, very seldom, and you normally get a feeling when it happens. You just get you have a sixth sense to it. You just sort of start to get a feeling of when those things happen, you know. But yeah, like I say, years since I've not had somebody not pay me. I mean, you get customers who maybe, you know, want more explanation of what you've done, perhaps, or more. They just want to know what you've done while they've been gone and stuff, but not in a sort of a nasty or derogatory way, you know. But so in here we are more or less, well, basically this is the first fix, completely finished now. That's it, it's all done. So I'll give you a little walk around and see what we've been up to. So sockets are in, and this is how we've done them. Knees. So we've just taken the 450 off the deck, and I mean, you've seen how I do it in the past. Just use a grinder, 4 cuts, and then we just use the SDS to chip it out, and that's it. So we just do a pair of grommets in the back box, capping going on, and they can just skim straight over that. And this one over here is the same setup. So we just kept the data and power separate in their own pipes, sorry, in their own cappings, and that will just be one data point, and then we just got a double socket next to it, and just same thing, 450 up off the deck. So down here, you saw me here pulling the old cabling out the other day, but these are the plumber's central heating pipes. It's like a 10mm microbore pipe or something. So that's all coming out because the plumber's coming here on Friday. So we just run our data over here. So there's a data cable for each room. So 1, 2, 3. And then this is some of these here. These are the lighting cables for downstairs, which we can't touch because that's nothing to do with us. So they've got to stay in. But what we have done is we've run in these steel safety plates, and these are really good bits of kit. If you're, because the customer specifically requested here that they wanted a minimum amount of holes to be drilled, so we tried to reuse a lot of the old holes where we can. But if you've got cables which are a little bit close to the surface, like these ones are here, if they're a little bit close to the surface and you're worried that when they screw the boards back down they could risk screwing into the cables, you can buy these plates. And these are, actually I'm not sure who manufactures these. They're called safe plates. That's all they've got written on them. But these are, you literally just put them on top, hammer them in, and that's it. They're there. And we've just put these over quite a few of the holes, because some of these, as you can see here, these are all these are the pre-existing holes. We haven't drilled a single hole here because we've tried to reuse as many of them as we can. But some of these ones here, we've just put these steel plates on top, where we think we might, you know, we could potentially run into issues with people screwing through them. So it's just a good little bonus. It's just a good little tip. You can buy these for about 30p each. They're not mega money. Were they from? Was it?
No.
They were in a Knightsbridge box.
Yeah, but the box, it says few spurs on the outside of it.
All right,
so
okay, yeah.
I'm guessing
okay.
they're just...
I think if you just Google safe plates or something, you'll see them. It was TLC that I got them from. I think they were like 30p, 35p or something a plate. They weren't mega bucks, but...
Yeah, they were quite cheap, as far as I can remember.
And then in here, so this is in like the small bedroom, so there's 2 double sockets, and then we've got 1 data point and a phone point to plug into his a handset. The double sockets on this side of the room are going to be, they're going to hang fire for a second because this wall is actually coming down, because it's because there's quite a lot of play in this wall. It's an old lath and plaster wall. Some of the other ones are all right, but it's just this one. There's a lot of play in it, so they're going to take it down and put a new stud wall up with 12.5mm board on. So, and then when they do that, we can then put these cables just inside, and we'll fish them out later. This would not be thorough unless I showed you up into the loft.
It's going to be a bit warm.
It is swelteringly hot up here, it really is. It's not as bad. We were up here, well, I'll say that, and Dave was up here at about 4 o'clock the other day, and it was so hot up here. Here you go. So this is all we've done. We've just literally just drilled it under the joist, so he can just put his bit of boarding straight, you know, he can put some fresh insulation down or whatever he wants, and just and and the boards can just go straight back on top. And we've just followed that everywhere in the loft. Here's an example. So we just put one of those little plates on just to go through the top of the joist, and we just clipped it in around where we can. A couple of you were talking about the floorboards, taking them up. A lot of you were like, why aren't you using a circular saw and you cut down the groove? The reason we're not is because we don't need to here, because it wouldn't have made any difference. Because these boards are the old flat-edged boards, and you just butt them up. There's no tongue and groove on them, so it wouldn't. It doesn't make any difference here if you run a circular saw down it or not. These are just the flat-edged boards, that the old-fashioned ones they used to have. I know the ones that a lot of you guys mean, the ones that, the more modern-day ones, where you have a tongue and groove and you click them together, and then if you've got a whole room like that, you have to run a circular saw down it. But these are just the old-fashioned ones, and you just try to, especially if they're nailed in, they're a pain in the ass to get up. If they're screwed in, it's not too bad. You can just undo the screws and the boards just lift up. But almost all of these invariably were all nailed in. And then those are all the data cable points, which will go into the back of the router, which is going to be in here. And then those are all the new cables we've run in, so they're just all there waiting. So as soon as we come back to do the second fix, I think what we'll do is we'll put this trunking, this will all come out, and we'll put a 4-inch trunking along the top to house all those cables. Actually, 3-inch, because that'll be enough, I think. 3-inch trunking all the way along the top. And then I will probably, if I can squeeze a 3-inch trunking down there with the lid on, I'll try to. If not, I'll have to bring it down this side. But basically the trunking will come down here, and the fuse board will end up moving across there, and I can house all of this in a nice neat enclosure. That's the plan, anyway. Oh, that was the other thing. I don't know if anyone, some of you follow me on Twitter, some don't. I took a photo the other day of the boiler here. That's the flue, just there. I'm almost sure there is a reg that says the flue has to be, it has to go upwards. You can't just, so like this, where the flue comes out and it's just right next to a window. Don't quote me on this, but I'm sure I heard a reg somewhere, because essentially, if you had the window open, and you go to bed, then you just got, carbon monoxide just coming straight back into your building. So if anybody knows, if there's any plumbers who watch this, if you do know what the reg is, because I'd actually like to know, for my own peace of mind, actually, what that reg is. Because there must be one. There must be some sort of, between windows, how far away it's got to be. I know in the electrical world we have tons of regs like that. It's minimum heights and all this shit we have to abide to. So if anybody knows what that reg is for the flue of a boiler, leave it in the comments below. I'd appreciate it. That's basically about it. Let's carry all that shit down now. All right, we're going to take the tools down first, and then we'll do battle with the cable.
So many piles of cables.
It's actually not as much as I thought.
I didn't expect it to be this much.
In the van, I was expecting a bit of a, it's not that much.
I was expecting, to have to force the doors closed.
Yeah, that's what but it doesn't, oh well. We'll wait in 2 minutes, we'll let you know how much it was worth.